think that a choke should be painful. It should be across the throat, across the trach, and there should be no pain whatsoever. We're in a very hot environment. People's heart rates are probably up, so I don't want to see people going unconscious. So I'm going to kneel behind Mark. All I'm going to do is put whichever arm, I'll do it with both sides around his neck. We're going to start out with one arm. So the important thing for us to understand is that all we are doing, we're calling it a choke, but all we're doing is stopping the blood flow of both carotid arteries up to Mark's brain. Somewhere between 4 and 7 seconds, that's going to render him unconscious. If Mark is able to free one side, and I'm only shutting off one side, he's not going to go unconscious. Now, certainly there are cranks and other things that people absolutely will tap to. I think a lot of times people tap because they're panicked and they think something's going on that isn't necessarily going on. And then they're getting, people that are doing it are getting negative feedback because people are tapping. Then they get in a competition or, God forbid, a life and death situation, and all of a sudden it's not working. So you should be able to, just with a couple pounds of pressure, not even, be able to get somebody to tap and get them to stop. So one of the things we see a lot is people putting their hands up here, doing this. Let's assume my head hooks in, they arch their back, and they do something like this. And eventually, if I'm squeezing hard, Mark probably will tap. I'm tearing my forearm across his throat. It's extremely painful. And there are ways, and if you do it hard enough, where you're going to go through the trachea, just like when you're doing a paper cutter choke, but you'll have access to the blood vessels. It's not super efficient. So essentially, when I put my arm around Mark's neck, there's a V that's here. I want to get that V around his neck, and all I'm going to do is close it a little bit. So from here, with one arm, I come around. I want to get my elbow directly in line with Mark's chin here. And then from here, all I'm going to do is squeeze this arm closed as if this thumb is coming into my shoulder. With the slightest amount of pressure, small bicep flex, I'm able to get a tap. I'm going to try the other side. It's important that whichever side our hand is on, our head is coming to. It'll get more important later, but even right now, it's difficult for me to choke here. And if Mark was actually to defend this, it'd be very easy for him to turn his head because I'm doing nothing to stop it, right? But if I'm here, now Mark tries to turn his head, it's not the same. So I'm gonna take my thumb as if I'm trying to touch my shoulder and just squeeze it a little bit. A very, very light squeeze. Mark and I will both work around the room and do it to you guys so you can feel it. It's a little bit difficult sometimes if you've never felt someone do it really light to fully understand it. Does anybody have any questions on this? This is this rear naked choke grip, and you see this a lot. And for MMA, I think a lot of times this makes sense. It's very hard to get the hand behind. When we talk about doing a one-hand rear naked later, we'll discuss this a little bit. But this is really easy to defend, and now we're crossing over a little bit into the defense side as we talk about the efficiency. But all Mark needs to do to stop this choke now is reach up and grab my arm, right? And you guys can go live with this a little bit. You can try to finish, come in, right? It makes it very difficult for me to finish the choke in the manner that I want to. I've seen it taught in fundamentals or basics classes. People talk about coming this way, combing back the hair. Then you start developing this habit of doing this. There's also, it's very low percentage, but there's definitely an arm lock here, right? That we don't want to get caught in. So for me, I'm going to anchor this and I'm going to grab his shoulder. Then my opposite hand, the non-choking arm, is going to be like a knife hand. I'm going to come behind his neck and then I'm going to roll to here. Now we're going to do the exact same thing we did, except I'm going to make a fist with this hand and I'm going to push the back of Mark's head down. If he resists it, that means he's lifting his chin up, right? So if he chooses to resist me pushing down, great. It's going to make it so much easier for me. If he doesn't, he's being pushed into the choke. So he gets to choose which way he gets choked, essentially, right? If Mark's not there, stay where you are, that'll be fine. The motion that we're looking for is I'm imagining as I push down here that I'm trying to touch my elbows together. I want to make this not exist here. Somebody asked over here, and I thought I said it, maybe I didn't. I am flexing my bicep too. So as we come in, I flex that bicep and I just bring those elbows together and I try to do it as light as I possibly can. So we're doing the exact same thing, exact same choke, but we're adding this support arm in. It should be way easier. So we come around and I anchor. This prevents Mark from being able to pull it down. This is how I would set it up if we were rolling, right? Mark's not going to be able to get this back. I come behind the head, and then my opposite hand here rolls in and grabs my opposite bicep. Non-choking arm makes a fist. I cant it forward. My head is going to come down. The reason my head comes down is so I don't get poked in the eye or anything. And then we just squeeze everything slightly together. Get the tap. Same thing on the other side. I come in, I grip Mark. I'm already connected to his neck. We've already demonstrated that we can finish here. Mark can try to defend, do whatever he wants. That's going to have no effect on this hand. Behind, roll to the bicep. I'm not going to tuck the head this time, but I'd be looking down, and my elbows start to connect. I get the tap. It is important for the way that we are doing this that this elbow is over his shoulder here. If I start trying to do it here, it starts becoming a very different kind of choke, and it becomes sort of a crank, and this arm's really not doing anything. So I want to be over here, head buried, and then just a very slow squeeze together. I will routinely, when I roll, catch people like this, try to hold them, and try to do a slow choke like this. If it's a competition or we're rolling hard, obviously not the situation I'm looking for. It also doesn't mean I'm burning my arms out either. I'm going to make my shoulders do all of the work. When we do this from behind, our partner is able to move with us a little bit, so it's going to be even less effective than it would if you had the hooks in, but we're going to do it without the hooks. So I get around Mark's neck, I connect, just like we have been. It's all the harder I really connect, and I'm going to drive my elbow down, right? You see how that affects his posture a little bit? I'm going to drive it down. Now without Mark there, all I'm going to do is shrug my shoulders up like this. Everything else is going to stay static, and I shrug my shoulders off. It's going to essentially leave his shoulders for the most part where they are, bring his neck up, and bring that V of my elbow, my bicep, and my forearm up like this, like he's being hung. So we're here. All I do is a soft connection, and I just shrug up.
I was trying to play cool.
And then this fist is important. Some of you guys are doing this. That's better than this, because here he still can't grab me, right? But this is going to help our choke. Making this fist and pushing in, I connect, and I shrug up. You should be able to do this all with shoulders. There's no being tough when it comes to a blood choke. Everybody's neck works the same. As long as you shut off both arteries, they're going to tap, they're going to be rendered unconscious. It's not like there's people that, I mean, I guess you can be tough and get your arm broke. I guess you can be tough and go unconscious too, but you're just unconscious, right? So one last time, I come around, my knife hand comes in behind the head. This time I was able to get it set up. A lot of times I like to just roll it like I talked about. Connect, we're good. Digging this into his chest, right? See how it's changing his posture? Then I'm just shrugging. And you see how his whole body goes up like that, right? You guys can do this with each other. This isn't one where it's so, I wanted you to feel Marker. I do the other one to you because it's so subtle. I want to make sure that people can feel that one. If you guys have questions, raise your hand, Marker. I'll come over. Otherwise, I'll let you guys drill this one. Does anybody have any questions on it?
The elbow, when you're driving it in, is there a specific spot you're looking for, or do you just wherever it's locked at?
Wherever it goes to, because you know where I am on Mark, if I'm around his neck compared to Brian, is going to be vastly different, right? It's going to vary by how long my arms are, how big their neck is, how big their chest is, everything else. The only reason I'm digging it in is so that when I shrug, it comes straight up. I want it to be like like Mark is being hung, right? Like there's a piece of rope around his neck, and we're yanking it up. In a back control position, whether I'm using both legs like this, or you guys like some sort of, you know, reverse back half guard, or you use a leg triangle, which I don't have the knees for anymore. Regardless of that, one of the keys to me being able to choke Derek is that I can control his shoulder position by controlling his head position. If I can't control those things, that's what's going to allow Derek to execute an escape, or at least initiate a defense where he's able to free one side. So when I have this choke here, Derek is going to try to move my legs out of the way, do whatever he can. If I'm in here tight, and I'm not squeezing, I'm just letting Derek move, he's not able to, right? We're not covering necessarily back control, but just to be specific, we're talking about the leg control. This is one of the reasons why the standing rear naked choke, and by standing I mean your opponent is standing, rather than not if he's standing and I'm on his back, hooks in. That's different. That's very difficult to escape. But you see all the time in altercations, people are standing up. So if Derek's behind me and he slaps a rear naked choke on, what's going to make this easier for me to escape, keep it loose please, is the fact that he's not controlling my hips. Now obviously I'm tall enough that Derek's going to have a hard time doing this. We'll assume that he was able to. The same side that he has around my neck, that arm's going to come between the middle. So I'm going to scoot my hips out. I'm going to take this arm and I'm going to swing it down and around. From here I'm pulling Derek in, I'm hip to hip, and now we would initiate whether or not we wanted to get the fuck out or I want to take this thing to the ground, right? So if I do this to Derek, this would be a little bit better position. I've wrapped his neck, I come in, he puts that arm up, he swings down. I'm unable, or Derek is unable, depending on who's behind, to stop it because they have no control of the shoulder or hip. That's what allows that motion to work. Some of you may have seen in the past, some people will teach a defense to the rear naked choke where they bring somebody over the front. I would be very concerned with doing permanent damage to my neck by doing that, especially if someone was bigger than me. So one more time, we're gonna come around and we understand, Derek understands, you guys understand, I have to shut off both these arteries. So I'll do it the other way this time. Boom, I've locked it up, I'm gonna squeeze tight this time. You see the reaction I had there, because I was squeezing tight, it's worse for me, it's not better. He has a few seconds, right? We know that, you guys felt it when we were going slower. It's not any faster for someone to be rendered unconscious because you squeeze harder. It's like a hose, it's either off or it's on. I mean, obviously if you're not squeezing at all or just kind of touching, you're slowing it down. Squeezing harder does not make your choke more effective. Now when we shrug up and we get that noose motion, people are tapping quicker because it's so uncomfortable. They're not going unconscious any faster. One more time, we're gonna come in, I'm gonna squeeze tight, go. So we're gonna cover strong side, weak side now. Some of you may or may not know what that means. So Mark has a seatbelt grip, which is very common, you see a lot. It's not something that my students use a lot. We tend to attack with double overs like this, which is a problem. But similar to how we talked about, we want to get that rope around, right? We want people falling into it. We want to be lifting it up. That's what a strong side choke is. That means I come to this side and I'm falling into this choke here, right? This is much harder for me to escape because I'm falling into the choke. Conversely, if Mark comes here, this is open. I have an exit. Now, that being said, if someone has a fully locked up choke, they've done all the right things and they're there, you absolutely can weak side choke people, and it happens all the time, and I do it all the time. But if I have a preference, if I feel Mark's arm come around my neck, I'm always going weak side because it's easier to escape the weak side. Now understand, when we talk about escapes and you say, well, I learned this escape and it's not working that well. Well, I mean, if we're in this position, we've already made a lot of mistakes, right? We've already gotten taken down or ended up on the ground. We've gotten our guard pass. We've allowed someone on our back, and now we've allowed an arm around our neck. So we fucked up a long time ago on a lot of things. This is last ditch kind of stuff, and there's some timing issues and things we have to try to do to be able to do this. If someone does use a seatbelt grip, great. I'm instantly clamping down on this arm. I'm using my legs, both of them, to push to this side, and I'm instantly moving my hip out. Now I'm not even in danger of getting choked. I'm not going to have you guys drill this because it's just kind of something to be thinking about. Anytime somebody takes my back, wherever it is, the second I feel an arm come around my neck, I'm going the opposite way. I'm scooting up and I'm turning my hips out. But let's talk about what happens if he does get that arm around the neck. So if Mark gets that arm around the neck, now I'm in danger, right? I'm going to allow him to get this other hand here. The most important thing Mark has going for him right now is his head positioning. If I can't beat that head, I cannot get out of this choke. Even with one arm here, this is going to get tight fast, right? And I'm going to have an issue. What I want to do is actually push my head into the choke, and I want to turn and look at Ron, and then I'm going to drive all of my weight from the back of my head into the front of Mark's head. So we're going to start out with one arm. Mark's going to get this super deep. I come out, and from here, all my weight's in my shoulders. I'm driving off the balls of my feet. I'm out of this choke back. My shoulder is on Mark's center line. Short of him repositioning me to the other side, he can't finish this. I'll allow him to do whatever he wants. It's just not going to happen. So I want you guys to get some reps in doing that. So Mark will do the other side now. See how I'm beating his head there. Mark's done this enough with me. He doesn't want to have his nose all fucked up the rest of the vacation. If you resist this a ton, you have the back of someone's head that's very hard smashing into your nose. It's not comfortable, right? Mark goes ahead and does it again. This time he puts the second arm in. Don't squeeze yet so I can talk. I'll tell him when and I'll let him squeeze, get good head positioning here, right? This is a bad situation for me, right? I've done a lot of things wrong to end up here. I'm gonna move into the choke and create that space. You see how I have that ability? Even if I squeeze hard for a second, even here, right? I have a couple seconds where I can do that. So I squeeze forward, I look over where Ron is sitting, all my weight to the back of my head. I'm trying to get the back of my head to my neck. So this time, once I tap Mark, I'm gonna allow him to go 100%. Sorry.
Good.
I don't know if you guys heard he made a noise there because he was squeezing hard, being a good training partner. He came across there. That's why I don't like to do weak side chokes. Now, if we go all the way to the weak side, we'll go ahead and lock it up fully. And now Mark tries to do it, it's over. I'm not turning my head and doing that now, and he's never gonna let my hips move. So our goal, when someone's on our back, when they get an arm around the neck, is to react and get to the weak side, trapping the arm if possible. The reason you know you've made mistakes is because you're reacting. Anytime you are reacting to what your opponent is doing, you're behind the power curve and you are losing that fight. We don't want to be reactionary in fighting. We want to be proactive. We want to be making people respond to the things that we do, but we've made a lot of mistakes. We've ended up here. So we'll start off with one arm and then we'll go to two. And now Mark's going to slow it down. He's going to have two arms. He's going to give me time. I lean forward. I look over at Ron. I start going to my side. I'm driving off my legs and I'm clearing. Look at how my hips are coming out too. And now from here I'm going to pause. Can you pull me? Can you move me? Can you go anywhere? No. Now we could do a whole class on, how we prevent getting mounted, how we come up with side control, those kind of things. But the purpose of what we're doing today is just to stop ourselves in this position from getting submitted, right? There's more jiu-jitsu that I've forgotten than I possibly know. Lee and I were joking about that the other day. So you want to learn these fundamental defense techniques to keep yourself alive, to be able to continue to fight. So last time, Mark grabs, he gets it tight, he's got good head positioning, go live. I'm out. Any questions? If I'm behind Mark here and I go like this, it's not a strong side choke because we're not over here, but this choke works, right? If I move my head to the other side of Mark and I start trying to squeeze, look how big this gap is. I'm doing it on the other side too. Grab my bicep with your right hand. Move it back and forth to your neck just so you can see how big that is. That's how much of a gap is there because his head's there. I can't get my arm over here. There's no strength in doing that. The second I move here, super easy. Same thing on this side. If I'm here, I'm connected, right? Boom. Really easy. Mark moves his head to the other side. Now look at that gap that's there. You guys see that? I can't do that. There's nothing for me to choke here. I can't make up that space. That real estate is gone. That's what we're doing here. I want to make sure that we're really understanding why. I don't want you guys thinking, when this happens, I do this, this, and this. I want you to understand why you're doing it so that you can extrapolate this into other chokes and other things beyond what we're working on this week. If you understand the fundamentals of the submission and the body mechanics needed to complete it, then you can reverse engineer stuff. And even if someone catches you with something you've never seen, as long as you understand what was happening, you can start thinking in the future about what roadblocks you need to put up to stop it. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. Let's keep drilling this. Some people tuck their chins into chokes. I just want you guys to get a couple reps on this because it's important. And I've seen people teach that you can do this. And because you have training partners that care about you, or maybe because you don't, they're not squeezing through. You can absolutely break someone's jaw with a rear naked choke. So if it was a real altercation or a real match, you think if you go to even an IBJJF local, you go to a Naga, someone is absolutely willing to break your jaw and then render you unconscious. Or just break your jaw so you scream and the match is over. If Mark drops in here and I come around him here, very gently, I'm just going to gradually increase it, it's going to get there, right? Do not do that. Mark has a couple seconds because when I get around there, I'm not choking him. If he lifts his chin up, he's got a couple seconds to escape the choke, right? He does not have those seconds if I start squeezing his jaw all he's getting is his jaw broken. And if you watch some of the posts of different Dan Hart guys and stuff, I think they call it a mandible squeeze. They actually hunt this as a submission. They're trying to get around the jaw because they recognize it's harder to get out of. If you're rolling with someone and they get around it, instantly get your neck up. It's counterintuitive because you're giving them your neck, but that's the only way you're escaping. If you let somebody fully lock it up and it's tight and they get between your jaw here, you're tapping or getting your jaw broken, and you absolutely are gonna have your arteries accessed at the same time. So in order to mix this back in, the way we're gonna start this is, Mark's gonna go weak side as soon as he feels me, but he's gonna let me get a grip around his jaw softly. He's gonna pop it up, and then he's gonna turn and go weak side, right? So go ahead and tuck your chin. I'm gonna come in here. I've got good head positioning. Now Mark's gonna pop his head up. Oh, sorry. You're good. And get out. Go. And for me, because I'm tight there, when he does that, it almost like wrist locks me, right? So let them access your neck, turn the head, and do everything we're doing the same. I'm not going to drill the mandible squeeze totally separately. If any of you wants to feel what it feels like, raise your hand. One of us will come over and show your jaw. You guys laugh, but I have had people all over the world that try to do this, you know, as a defense. You travel all over the world. You see people do this all the time? Yeah. He's a black belt, travels, teaches all the Globetrotter camps. I mean, I've had students tell me before, like, yeah, that's what I was taught because then you can't choke. Well, no, your training partners are unwilling to do that squeeze. And you might say that's being nice. I don't think it's being nice. I think you're teaching them and reinforcing bad behavior that if someone attacks them or something happens that's life or death, they're going to be on the death side of that, right? You need to know that that's a horrible idea. So let's keep drilling this, but let's add that in. Any questions? Now you have fucked up everything that you possibly could have.
Oh, just kidding.
You've allowed them to go to the strong side. You are falling into the choke. You no longer can fight for head position, and let's talk about why. So Mark gets his arm around. We're strong side. This is the head position he wants. I'm not going to be able to lift my head up and get all the way over to the other side. That's not going to happen, right? So now I have a leg fight on my hands. I have a very limited amount of time, and we're going to go back really to similar to what we did standing, but opposite arm. Let me loosen this just a little bit more. So this leg has to be addressed. So I'm going to straighten this leg. I'm going to kick it out, and at the same time, I'm going to forward shrimp, pop my hip, and come down here. Obviously, Mark's super loose, gave me tons of room. That's why it worked that way. The more you let someone lock it up, the harder it's going to be. If someone's fully locked in and they have it, they're going to have to make a mistake for you to get out. But my goal is, and when I know I'm clear, I'm either going to feel an artery or my shoulder is going to be to the center of his chest. Once my shoulder on the outside of the choke gets to the center of his chest, I know that he can no longer access my neck. Guys that are good are going to be doing a bunch of stuff with their legs to prevent this from happening. So if you're a white or blue belt at jiu-jitsu and a black belt takes your back and gets a strong side choke, it's probably not going to work out great for you. You're probably still going to get choked. So when Ron talked about like rolling to the belt level, your escapes and as you learn things are going to be that way. So Mark's here, he locks it up, he's got good head positioning, I feel it. Again, I'm opening up to this. I'm not allowing Mark to get my chin in there. Use your hand if you want to. I usually do not. I kick the leg straight, come up, and now I'm trying to shrimp and get myself down here. I'll do it again. This time I'm going to let Mark squeeze pretty tight. Go ahead, lock it up. When I tap your leg, go live. And I'm out, right? He can squeeze all he wants here. Nothing's going to happen. Again, we can talk for hours about positioning, coming up into side control, guard, whatever, trying to get a hook in. That's not what we're doing. I can hang out here. Mark cannot squeeze here anymore. I'm completely out of this choke. So one of the keys here is reacting in a timely fashion. The worst thing you can do is let somebody keep sinking something in, and there's certain things you're going to do that are just going to stall and make this worse for you. So for example, sometimes people do this, right? And they come in here. Now you're running out of shit to tap with is all you're doing. I might be able to like hang on Mark for a minute, but Mark's going to choke me with my own hands. Go ahead. That's all that's going to happen. So some of these things that some of you guys I'm sure are doing, they might buy you a little bit of time, but if they're only buying you time to inevitably tap, it's worthless and you need to take it out of your game. You need to buy yourself time and have things that you can do, reactions that you can add in that are gonna allow you to not get strangled. So again, we're here, Mark's going, I feel it, boom. And maybe I have to do it 2 or 3 times. Squeeze really tight, go ahead and try to finish. I'm out. I'm not getting choked anymore, right? I mentioned to Jeremy, he was working with Denver, trying to get out. On the weak side, he made the weak side a leg fight. Strong side chokes are a leg fight. Weak side chokes are a head fight, right? Try to keep that in your head. If you drill this stuff enough, and I recommend you do positional drilling, it's something my coach Henry has us do when we train together, when we go to his seminars. At our school, we don't do warm-ups, we do positional drilling before and after class, something I highly recommend. We'll talk a little bit about the rolling when we stop here in a little bit, but you should have goals when you go into rolling. Your training should be focused. Just rolling to roll is fun and it's great, but it's probably the thing that's going to least improve your game, in my opinion. Unless you're already at a super high level and you're getting ready for a tournament or something, then that's different. This strong side one, start out super weak, let your partners do it, start squeezing more and more, and get it up there. And understand, if someone gets all the way over and locked in and understands leg control and those things, you're not supposed to be able to get out of that. They're gonna have to be making some mistakes and doing things, they're gonna have some time. Does anybody have any questions on this?
Are you going for one motion or seriously bumps?
I would love to do it in one motion. I typically do it in 3 to 4 because I'm trying to gain, not give back, gain, not give back, gain, not give back. It's gonna depend on who's on. I'm gonna do an aggressive first motion and you're gonna know right away, did I get an inch or did I get out? If I got an inch, then I'm just gonna keep going. If I get out, great. I'd love to do it in one. Against better people, it's gonna be a few motions.
Can you do it one more time facing this way?
Yeah. No problem. All right, let's run it. You don't have to fully clear the leg. What you need to do is get the leg not across your hip anymore. So some of you guys I'm seeing, you're like practically out of the choke, and then you're staying there because it's my fault because I said to clear the leg, right? But if his leg is here, now I'm in trouble. If I'm here, it's off of my hip across there, he's not gonna be able to choke me anymore, right? I can worry about this later now. I have beat it off of crossing my hip and crossing my full thigh. If I'm here, now Denver can choke me again, right? This is not good. Here, he can't. So you don't have to have it fully off of you. It's my fault for explaining it that way. Your goal is to clear your neck. It is a leg fight, but we're clearing the leg from being across our hip and into the center of our body. So we don't have to fully beat it. I've seen some of you guys that are going with guys with longer legs and you're concentrating too much on that. Worry about your neck more. Does that make sense to everybody? Let's get a couple more reps in. I'm gonna talk a little bit about open mat and then we're gonna get some rolling in. I know some of you guys need to get out of here and get some food. We've got the Thursday night thing going and stuff, so I don't wanna go over and keep you. I know everybody's trying to train and be on vacation. So let's drill that a little bit and then we'll get into some open mat. Hey guys, hope you dug what we did today. Come see Nick and I in Vegas.